According to the tablet, she suffered chemical burns to the face and eyes. That sort of injury would have effectively blinded her. Also, inside the janitor's closet, there was a large empty bottle of bleach. That's probably the chemical that caused the burns.
Blinded? With bleach? That's horrible!
All that pain, yet she still managed to fight back.
She sure put up a struggle. Without a gun, I guess the next best thing was her hands.
So the killer was definitely the one who blinded her.
Indeed. Knowing she had a gun, he blinded her to make her less dangerous. Then, when he pinned her against the door and stabbed her, she tried to retaliate.
Until eventually dying from her wounds.
Jeez, this is brutal! Couldn't they have toned down the violence?
The past is in the past, and we can't change that. All we can do is solve her untimely death, eh?
I mean, by the sounds of it, we've already figured it out, right?
No. Not yet.
Seriously?
But we've already discussed so much!
We know she was armed. We know she was blinded. We figured out how she died. How is this not a closed case?
Please understand, I'm proud of everyone's hard work so far. Because of you, we're one step closer to bringing the victim justice.
This was never about the dummy.
However, we should think of this case like an equation. Knowing how it works is only half the struggle. Now we need to figure out why.
As in, the motive?
You're on the right track.
You speak like we have any information on the killer.
The man's a stock image. He doesn't even have a name.
What are we supposed to ascertain from that? That he's a non-character?
Not every answer will be written down for you. Sometimes actions speak louder than...
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold the phone!
Grace?
Whoa, what? Since when was Grace back to normal?
Right now, soybean.
Watching you guys try to solve this mystery has been like watching a dumpster catch on fire. I guess all that smoke must have clouded your vision, 'cause there's a big-ass elephant in this room.
An elephant in the room?
That's giving us too much credit.
So the killer incapacitated that girl. She had a gun, it makes total sense. Problem is, you've yet to explain how he used the bleach.
I sort of assumed he spilled it on the victim.
Right. He just tipped the bottle over her.
That bottle is where the bleach came from, sure. But I doubt the bottle itself was involved in the murder. When we found it, it was neatly ordered on a shelf near the back of the closet. The gun and knife were just thrown on the floor, so it's weird this weapon was handled so differently.
Do you think the killer just poured the contents of that bottle into something else?
Sure, before the actual murder took place, I'd say.
And what is this something else? Go on, explain it before this dumpster turns molten.
Well, if the original bottle's been emptied, where'd the bleach go?
Into another bottle?
What about a container? There were a bunch in the closet.
I bet the killer had a secret water gun. So when the victim came in, pow! He squirted her in the eyes.
Hey! The ink vanishes when the battle's over.
Call the fire brigade, Grace.
Well, if the original bottle's been emptied, where'd the bleach go?
Into another bottle?
What about a
I got it.
She's correct. The killer put the chemicals in a bucket. Or, more specifically, the same bucket we found at the crime scene. After all, it reeked of bleach. If the killer didn't use it to transport bleach, what else did they use it for? Personal cleaning? I doubt it.
Yo, that makes sense!
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Okay, cool. So, how'd the killer use that bucket to spill bleach in the victim's eyes?
It would be a fairly heavy bucket, so it's unlikely he threw it on her.
She'd shoot him before he even had the chance. Use your brain, mate.
Of course, my apologies.
Even if he did manage to splash her, the girl should have sustained intense facial burns. However, aside from her eyes, her face was relatively untouched.
Well, if you check the tablet, it said she had burns to the scalp, too.
Burns to the scalp? How does that work? Unless those chemicals came from above?
Did the killer somehow suspend the bucket in the air? Maybe there was a mechanism that made it tip over when someone entered the room.
Where's this bucket supposed to be again?
Above. Which, well, could mean anything.
Was the killer hiding above the door frame?
There's no way they were up there. There's nothing for them to sit or hold on to. Not to mention, they could have stabbed her from up there.
And if there's no place for the killer to sit, then there's no place for the bucket to sit.
Unless you take into account the size difference. The space above the entrance might not be able to support a person, but it could still support something as small as a bucket.
And that thing supporting the bucket?
I got it. I don't know how we overlooked this, but I've got it. The killer just balanced the bucket on the door.
Like in those water bucket pranks people film?
Exactly. When the victim came into the room, she pushed open the door and caused the bucket to fall on her. This would make it so she couldn't shoot back or even get a chance to see her assailant. When the bucket hit the ground, it probably rolled away. That'd explain why we found it a couple feet from the victim.
That is a possibility, yes.
It sounds like the best conclusion.
There's just one problem. How was the killer able to reach that high? Unless they were abnormally tall, it'd be difficult to place something on top of that door.
Well, let's use that as our next point of discussion. How did the killer set up this trap?
This is it. There was a stepladder hiding behind the closet door. The killer probably used that. After climbing it, they could position the bucket right on top of the door. Figures.
My precious stepladder? You think the bad guy used my super duper obvious stepladder?
Match point! Occam's razor!
Yes, it appears our killer didn't care much for subtlety. No matter how obvious it seems, it's the only answer that makes sense.
It was the only knick-knack of its kind, too. If there's something else that killer could have used, it's escaping me.
I see. It makes sense with what we've got so far. But I'm not done yet. I still have one last question for you apes.
Please just leave us alone. Oh, I'm so tired.
Hey, don't be like that. Grace may be loud, but her questions have really helped our discussion.
Anyway, what was the killer doing when that bucket poured onto the girl's head?
He obviously didn't just stand there and observe.
I've got it. The killer was hiding in the back of the closet. If he was pressed up against the furthest shelf and facing the entrance, there'd be a diagonal path between him and his victim. I say diagonal because that's the only way you can make a direct charge forward. Also, when the victim entered the room, she would have been standing with her back to the hallway, right outside the killer's range. That's why the stab wounds were only made to her chest.
Creating the crime scene we found! Great job, guys! We're actually doing this!
That was the last mystery, right? We must have put everything together now.
Even if it's all fake, I feel really bad for this victim.
It's an ugly sight, but she's no victim.
Huh?
Well, technically she is, but let's be real. The girl was carrying a gun. She probably provoked the killer, and they killed her in self-defense. It's a clear-cut case of the hunter becoming the hunted, no?
That's no excuse.
What?
There's no justifying murder. Killing a woman is the worst thing a man could do.
You're emanating a sizable amount of emotional tension. Are you okay?
There's no excuse. There never was an excuse. 28 stab wounds! No girl, no person should ever suffer Kara's fate.
Wait, who's Kara?
It was the victim's name! Didn't anyone read the tablet?
I agree with you, dude, but you don't have to shout out your point.
Oi, what's all this about? We figured out the case. Stop trying to drag it on.
No. We're not finished here.
Huh?
There's no murder without a proper motive. We need to discuss why Kara died.
I am not going this far for a fictional murder case. We aren't looking for a murderer. We're looking for answers, which we have.
Do you turn in a half-finished exam, Winona? An essay without its conclusion? This isn't about efficiency, this is about being right. Or do you, a supposed entrepreneur, not value integrity?
What the hell?
Let's just talk about the motive. There's no harm in doing that, right?
Well, what was the motive? Was the killer fighting for their life? Or were they going out of their way to murder?
Maybe the gun freaked him out.
If I was in the killer's shoes, I'd definitely be nervous. Thing is, while acting out of self-defense is possible, since when does it look like this?
Given the severity, I'd liken it to a crime of passion.
Something done on impulse?
What if they were frightened? The spooky thing might have set them off big time.
That's wrong. There's no way this was done in self-defense. No matter what excuse the killer uses, it doesn't change the fact they have blood on their hands.
Yo, bud. You seem a little pressed.
Silence! I won't allow this!